You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Well, the game was a total dud. Did that have any impact whatsoever on the massive amounts of recruits that were on campus Saturday for LSU, Alabama? Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, joins us. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, Matt. How are you?
Really good. All right, so the game stunk. The question everybody wants to know and is sort of fearful of, when you go lay an egg like that and get thoroughly dominated, does that leave a sour taste for the bevy of 5 stars and blue chip recruits that were in attendance Saturday night?
No, and I always say, look, yes, of course, a great atmosphere for 4 quarters like Ole Miss or a win on top of that would have been much better than the outcome that they got. But once more, recruits view this through such a different lens than fans do or casual observers. These guys are locked in on position coaches, how they fit in. I'm going to play early, all these different things. And today, in fact, they landed a commitment from currently Louisiana's leader in receiving yards this year with Kenny Darby up at Airline. But he was at the LSU game this past weekend, and he said coaching staff showed him a great time, all of that. And he said after leaving campus from the game, before he even left, he said, "Hey, I'm getting a chance to meet with Coach Kelly. I'm ready to shut it down. This is where I want to be." That was after LSU was on the wrong side of that type of game. So, yes, it's a Louisiana kid, but that's the point. You're supposed to lock them up, and whether win or lose, that's what they did.
Well, Shea, let's come back to Alabama then. Since you mentioned Darby, we'll go there. The Tigers did get a commit for 2026 from Kenny Darby. Why don't you give us the nuts and bolts there?
Yeah, he's been on fire. He was committed to Mississippi State and then backed off that commitment. LSU had been recruiting him and picked up his offer and committed kind of over the weekend. They said, hey, if you come down here and things check out, we'll move forward with it. And they gave him the offer. He committed on the spot pretty much and announced it today. You and I were together earlier when he announced his decision. But through 10 games, I think Airline's played, he's right at about 1,500 yards, 20-plus touchdowns. He's got about 80 catches. This is what we talk about when we say keep Louisiana's best receivers at home. And you can glance up right now who's out there leading, top 5, 6 rookies in the NFL. The 1-2 punch is Malik and BT. And then right behind them a few spots is Keon Coleman from Opelousas. So if you keep these guys home in Louisiana and make the right evals, that you set yourself up pretty well at receiver.
Shea, give me a little more perspective here on this 2026 class, which I've kind of highlighted as one that could be sort of the finishing touches of rebuilding a championship roster around here.
Well, they already have 5 commits, and they have a couple of wide receivers already committed. Ja'Kai Anderson committed already as well. We've got him as a 4-star on 3. Recently bumped him into the top 300 based off what he's done this year as a junior over at McDonough 35. He's been really good. They've got Aiden Hall committed at safety. He's a top 3 safety in the entire country coming out of Edna Carr. They've got a top 5 D lineman already committed out of Edna Carr and Richard Anderson. Jalen Chapman, an offensive lineman from Warren Easton. So they're out to a quicker start than maybe normally. And I think it's because even before this season started, Matt, they had 26, 27 commitments. So you move on to the next class, and no shock that the first wave of commitments, 5 of them, are all from Louisiana. In fact, he becomes, Kenny Darby, the first one not from New Orleans. But you can tell they're buckled in, and when you look at who's out there, the number 1 safety, Blaine Bradford, his brother's committed to LSU in this current class as a safety, Jacob Bradford. Lamar Brown, one of the top O-line prospects. I think that's where he's going to end up playing, at least, in the country, playing here at U-High. And the list goes on and on. But you're right. It is, once more, one of those cycles where you look at and say, man, if LSU can keep these guys home, then that's the type of classes they can build, towards championships with.
He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon. So you mentioned guys from New Orleans in 26. Well, of course, Jahkeem Stewart was that, and he's reclassified for 25. Jahkeem Stewart took his official to LSU this past weekend for the Bama weekend. What can you tell us? How'd it go?
I think it went well. I mean, look, you want to win. That would have been a bigger thing. But at the same time, I think that he viewed it as a really good visit, an opportunity to really sit down and talk with the staff about everything. Considered that, like you said, you reclassify. That means you go from a junior basically to a senior in high school, and now all of a sudden you're signing in a month. So as we talked about, he's in the midst of this wave of 4 official visits. 3 of them are down: Oregon, Ohio State, LSU. Southern Cal is left for this week, or weekend, I should say. And then from there, he'll mull over the decision and plans to sign on December 4th. My pick's been on LSU. I haven't moved it. I do think that Oregon and Ohio State are they are real competition here. But Frank Wilson has kind of dug his heels in here for a bit. So while Ohio State and Oregon are legitimate threats, this is a kid from reserve who went from Aug to Carr, and I just still think that I'm not counting LSU out at any point if Frank's involved in this one, let alone Bo Davis, who has a track record for developing D linemen, which LSU wasn't able to pitch to guys here in recent years.
So on Twitter at Shea Dixon On3, the Bengal Tiger. Be remiss if we didn't talk about Bryce Underwood, the number 1 player in the country, who was in Tiger Stadium on Saturday as well. How did his visit go?
I don't think it could have gone much better. He's already committed, so you got that part out of the way. But he was down here with not just mom, dad, and sister, who come every time he's come down here, but the entire family. I mean, grandmas, mom's sisters, uncles, everybody was here. They were hanging out on the sidelines before the game, and because he's in the playoffs, he played Friday night, and then Saturday came. So his visit lasted all the way until Monday, but that included even Sunday night dinner with the staff, everyone from Brian Kelly to Sloan to Frank Wilson and obviously more. From everything I've picked up, and I'm hoping to catch up with the Underwood camp here soon, and they see if they'll go on record about where things stand. But everything I've heard is that LSU, unless barring some massive shift, that nothing's changed, and the number 1 player in the country is expected to sign here in a few weeks.
Shea, the other wrinkle as we keep talking about Michigan trying to get in the mix here, for those that haven't heard, Connor Stalions, yes, that Connor Stalions, the Michigan spy, is now coaching at Belleville, Bryce Underwood's high school. The head coach there confirmed it. What should we make of Connor Stalions now working at Bryce Underwood's high school?
Is this surprising to you? We watched the Netflix documentary, right?
Right.
I mean, this guy, Die Hard.
He's in, man.
I don't think that Bryce or other coaches joining the staff at 4 weeks out from signing day is going to be all that big of a sway for him. If anything, look, he's so dialed in with LSU and everything they've had going on that still I go back, he hasn't even visited Michigan. And we knew this push would come. Well, when the NIL numbers, get leaked, who was it? It's the Michigan side talking about, oh, look, we're staying competitive. We've matched LSU. And then after that, it was, we're sending a bus of people there. Now, no, Connor Stalions is all of a sudden on the Belleville staff. And then they had really up in Michigan pumped up this new NIL deal that was coming through today. And it was passes, which LSU's already been involved with. And in fact, when passes joined the NIL landscape, the first deal they did was with a Miss Livy Dunn for a multi-million deal out of LSU. So I'm not sure if that, and look, passes and joining up with Michigan is going to move the meter that much for a guy like Bryce at this stage, when you could just turn around and say, oh, that company, the one that Livy Dunn, our gymnast, struck a $2 million deal with, that was, or however many million, that was the very first deal passes ever did with a collegiate athlete. I'm not sure any of these late moves are really going to do anything for Michigan. I think winning football games and showing an offense that was throwing the ball down the field would help. And I didn't check it today, Matt, but I know going into that Indiana game, which they lost and completely mismanaged, golly, the time at the end, if you saw that one, but they were the 4th worst passing offense in the country. And it's not just bad quarterback play. They just don't throw it. So I'm not sure if all of the side stuff is enticing enough to overcome the reality that one team has had a very good offense that throws the football and the other has not.
Shea, before you go, you want to empty the notebook on a giant weekend? Anything else we haven't touched on that we should know?
I think that, look, DJ Pickett was in town, Harlan Berry, your 5 stars. Right now, LSU has 27 commits. I think it's just about holding on. Underwood, all these guys. They'll have a couple guys, I think, that will, end up staying closer to home or things like that, but nothing that's going to shake up this class in any major way. And here's my fact of the day, Matt. LSU's had a top 3 class, number 2 class on 3, but the other ones right around them are Bama, Georgia. All 3 of those schools have 2 SEC losses. We don't see any wave of decommitments from any of them. That's what just goes to show you that these schools know what they're doing. They stay in the top 5 every year for a reason, no matter if they go undefeated or if they have a 9-3 finish. And like I said, right now, the who's who, Bama, Georgia, LSU, if that's your, and Texas are the 4 of the 5 teams in the top 5 SEC in recruiting. Texas is doing well, but they've got an SEC loss. So I'm not pressing the panic button on anything. And it's been about 3 days now, and there were no decommitments.
ULM, New Mexico State, Air Force, and Army.
Those are what, the undefeated teams?
No, those are the
ULM.
Those are the only teams in the country who throw it less per game than Michigan.
Oh, I did just have that pulled up. Yep, 134 yards a game. Michigan's ranked 130th, just behind Kennesaw State, who fired their head coach yesterday or today. One of these days.
Dynamic. Can't imagine why a
and scroll up to the
top.
LSU's at 7.
Yeah, it's interesting. Can't imagine why a guy like Bryce Underwood wouldn't want to go be a Michigan man. I don't know. Things that make you go, Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You got it, Matt. Anytime.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.